Hi, welcome to my channel. Here we discuss interesting topics and just have a good time. If you like this video, don't forget to put a like, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell not to miss new videos. Share your thoughts in the comments. I value your opinion. Thank you for being with us. The video explores 3 signs of bad people around you and teaches how to deal with them, emphasizing that evil often hides under the guise of goodness, referencing Seneca's wisdom. Sign 1: enjoyment of others' pain. Bad people take pleasure in others' suffering, a phenomenon known as schadenfreude. It's important to notice how people react to others' misfortunes, as those who derive joy from it can be emotionally draining. In the small town of Althea, where everyone knew everyone, there was an unspoken bond that tied the community together. Yet, in the midst of this camaraderie, certain individuals thrived on a darker emotion, schadenfreude, the pleasure derived from another's misfortune. This sinister joy was not always overt but manifested in subtle, yet telling, reactions. Catherine, the town's most beloved baker, was the unfortunate victim of a small accident one morning. As she carried a tray of freshly baked bread to the counter, she slipped on a wet spot, sending the loaves scattering across the floor. The incident drew the attention of a few customers, but none as quickly as Maureen. Maureen, a regular at Catherine's bakery, had always been known for her sharp wit and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. When she saw Catherine's misfortune, her reaction was telling. She didn't rush to help. Instead, she stood back, her eyes gleaming with a peculiar light, and her lips curled into a smirk that she quickly masked with a concerned expression. The other customers, genuinely empathetic, hurried to help Catherine, but Maureen's reaction lingered in the air like a bad odor. That evening, as word of Catherine's accident spread through Althea, Maureen was the first to bring it up in conversation. She recounted the story with a little too much glee, her laughter too loud, her amusement too obvious. It was a subtle but powerful lesson for those who paid attention. Maureen's reaction to Catherine's fall was not just a momentary lapse in empathy, it was a window into her soul. She found joy in others' suffering, a trait that was both emotionally draining and potentially dangerous. Those who recognized this sign in Maureen began to distance themselves, understanding that her laughter came at the expense of others' pain. In the days that followed, Catherine, too, grew wary, recognizing that Maureen's presence brought more discomfort than warmth. Sign 2: need to control. Control freaks attempt to dominate every aspect of your life, akin to emotional vacuum cleaners, draining your energy and freedom. Setting clear boundaries is essential to reclaim your life and autonomy. Not far from Catherine's bakery, there lived a man named Harold, known for his keen interest in everyone else's business. Harold was not the sort to offer a helping hand or a kind word. Instead, his involvement in others' lives came with strings attached. His need to control was evident to those who spent enough time around him. One day, Harold's neighbor, a young woman named Clara, received a job offer in a distant city. The opportunity was a dream come true, yet she hesitated, unsure whether to leave the familiarity of Althea. Harold, who had always taken an unsettling interest in Clara's life, seized this moment of indecision. Leaving might not be the best idea, Harold began, his tone sweet yet insidious. You have no family there, no friends. What if things don't work out? You'd be alone, with no one to turn to. His words were laced with doubt, designed to make Clara second-guess herself. He offered advice under the guise of concern, but it was clear to those who knew him that Harold thrived on keeping Clara dependent on his opinions. He manipulated situations to ensure he remained a central figure in her decisions, subtly controlling her life. Clara, overwhelmed by Harold's constant input, began to feel trapped. Her dreams seemed to drift further away as Harold's influence grew stronger. It wasn't until she confided in her friend, Rachel, that the extent of Harold's manipulation became clear. Rachel, having known Harold's ways, urged Clara to recognize his behavior for what it was, a need to control masked as concern. Taking Rachel's advice to heart, Clara started setting boundaries. She politely declined Harold's unsolicited advice, made decisions without seeking his approval, and slowly, the fog of doubt lifted. The more she distanced herself from Harold's influence, the more she reclaimed her autonomy. Clara eventually accepted the job offer, and as she prepared to leave Althea, she felt a sense of liberation she hadn't experienced in years. Harold, on the other hand, was left without his puppet. The control he once wielded over Clara evaporated, leaving him to face the uncomfortable truth. Without his influence over others, he was merely a lonely man with no true connections. Sign 3: feeling uneasy in their presence. Being around certain people may evoke a strange, uncomfortable feeling, signaling that something is wrong. This instinct is your body's way of alerting you to potential toxicity. In Althea, where the townsfolk were generally warm and welcoming, there were those few individuals whose presence brought an inexplicable unease. One such person was Gregor, a man of few words and a demeanor that made others uncomfortable. He wasn't overtly unkind or rude, yet being around him felt like standing on the edge of a precipice. Lucy, a young mother of 2, first noticed this unsettling feeling during a community gathering. Gregor had joined the group, standing silently on the periphery, his gaze lingering too long on conversations that didn't include him. When he did speak, his words were curt, and his tone carried an underlying aggression that made the hairs on Lucy's neck stand on end. It wasn't just Lucy who felt this way. Others, too, found themselves instinctively avoiding Gregor. His presence was like a shadow that darkened the atmosphere, making everyone around him uneasy. Despite this, no one could pinpoint exactly what it was about Gregor that caused such discomfort. The turning point came when Lucy's son, Max, a usually cheerful child, began expressing reluctance to attend events where Gregor might be present. "He scares me," Mommy Max confessed one evening, his voice small and frightened. Lucy's heart sank as she realized that her child's innocent perception mirrored her own unspoken feelings. Taking Max's fear seriously, Lucy decided to trust her instincts. She distanced herself and her family from Gregor, opting for gatherings where his presence was unlikely. The relief was almost immediate. The unease that had clouded her mind lifted, replaced by a clarity that allowed her to see Gregor's effect on others as well. In time, the community began to recognize the subtle but powerful impact Gregor's presence had on their collective well-being. He wasn't openly malicious, but the discomfort he brought was a signal they could no longer ignore. By acknowledging their instincts, they protected themselves from the insidious influence of someone whose very presence was a warning of the toxicity they couldn't quite see, but could always feel. The video only lists 3 clear signs of a bad person. There are actually many more. The most effective way to communicate with such people is to reduce it to a minimum. Try to communicate only with those people with whom you feel comfortable, with whom you do not feel empty after communicating with them. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you liked the video, put a like, subscribe to our channel, share this video on social networks, and write your opinion in the comments. It will help to promote this video in YouTube so that as many people who need it heard this information.